up, everybody? This is Steve with Smitty's Fly Box. This month we're doing the pheasant tail. So I'm going to send materials so that you can tie a lot of different variations, bead heads, flashbacks. But this video I'm just going to show you the standard pheasant tail. So we're using a Daiichi hook, size 14, 8/0 thread. We'll just start our thread there in the center like normal. And we'll take our thread back to our tie-in point directly above the barb of the hook. That's where we're going to tie in our tail. So we're just going to take our rooster feather and take about 7 or 8 of these fibers and clip those off really close to the stem there. And that's what we use for the tail and the abdomen on the fly. And if you need to even up those tips slightly, you can do that now. Alright, now what we'll do is we want to tie in the tail. We want the tail to be half the length of the hook shank. So something like that. And hold it on an angle so we can tie it down in a roll right up on top. We're just going to tie it down with a couple of thread wraps like that. Now let's pull back these butts. Don't clip those off yet. We're going to use those. So now I'm going to take some copper wire and we'll tie that in just along the hook shank. We're going to use that as our ribbing. Just hold it in there carefully along the side of the hook, and we'll tie that down all the way back to the base of our tail and come right back just past halfway. Alright, now we're going to take these butts that we left and wrap those over the top away from us, and that'll create the abdomen of the fly. Once we reach just past halfway, we can hold that straight up in the air with our right hand and drop our thread over with our left hand, and that'll tie down that pheasant. If we need to, we can make a couple of extra turns right there. Alright, now we'll take our wire and we're going to counter wrap that in the opposite direction. So we're going to go over the top towards us, and that'll make that a little more durable and create a little rib in that abdomen. Once we reach our thread, we can hold that straight up in the air and tie that down. We'll snip off the excess. Okay, now we're ready to tie in our wing case and our legs. So I'm going to take another section of pheasant feathers here, probably about a dozen, and we can even up those tips if we need to. We're going to tie this in right in the center there. We need to measure the length so we get a good wing case and legs. So I'm going to even those up with the tail and pinch those there. And I'm just about halfway up the hook shank. So once I've got those secured in, I can clip off the butts. And now we can make what we call the thorax. You can use regular peacock feather. I'm going to use a synthetic dubbing peacock. It's Arizona semi-seal leech dubbing. So it's got a little shimmer to it. Looks pretty good. And we're just going to dub that, not too thick, just enough to give it a little taper and a little bit of that thorax buggy look. Okay, actually got a little too much. Let's just take a little bit off. Okay, now we can make sure we end up right there. It's going to look a little fuzzy. Just trim off all the excess. I don't want it too crazy. Let's just tighten it down, the body. But let those little fibers shimmer. Okay, now we're ready to pull over this pheasant for the wing case. So let's just pull it over and pinch it right there. We're pinching the fly and the feather at the same time. And we'll drop our thread over about 3 times, and that'll tie that down. You should have some sticking out the front, and that's what we're going to use for the legs. This is a little tricky. You can try to separate those evenly on each side. Just part them like that. You can kind of press them like that. How they look good. Now take your finger and your thumb on your left hand and just brush it straight down, and then you can come with your thread and wrap back with your your right hand, and that should get those laying down, and you get that leg profile. Okay, now we can just whip finish and build a neat little head and snip off any whiskers that we may have. And you have the classic American Pheasant Tail Nymph.